What's going on, guys? In this one we're going to be making a Middle Eastern slow cooked lamb that literally melts in your mouth, and the seasoning for this one is called a Ras El Hanout, which is a Moroccan spice blend, but in Arabic translates to top shelf, meaning that the merchant is selling you the best spices. Let's get straight into it. Please sit back, relax and enjoy.
Alright guys, let's start this off by making the Ras El Hanout seasoning, which consists of 2.5 teaspoons or 6 grams of ground cumin for earthiness, 1.5 teaspoons or 3 grams of ground coriander for a floral fragrance, 1.5 teaspoons or 3 grams of smoked paprika for a sweet smokiness, 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of ground cardamom for a herbal warmth, 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of ground ginger for a deep spice, 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of turmeric for colour and a bit of muskiness, 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of red chili powder for heat and is optional, and 1 teaspoon or 5 grams of sea salt flakes. Give this all a good mix with a fork or whisk just until it's all combined, and this right here is our Ras El Hanout spice mix that we can pop out of the way for a second. For this recipe, get yourself a 1.4 kilo or 3.1 pound boneless butterflied lamb leg, which can be placed into a large mixing bowl, then grab the Ras El Hanout spice mix, tip it over the top, which works amazingly with lamb, and drizzle in 1 tablespoon or 20 milliliters of olive oil, which will help the spices stick. Let's then get our clean hands in there and rub the spice mix extremely well all over the lamb, ensuring that we get in all of the little crevices just until we're left with this beautiful, well seasoned and spiced lamb leg, which can be left alone for the time being. Now for the prep, we're going to need 2 large brown or yellow onions that have been peeled with the scraps saved for a stock. Slice them in half, then into quarters lengthways, rotate 90 degrees and roughly chop into large even sized pieces. Next, with 4 small carrots or 2 large ones, these can have their tops removed, saving them for a stock, and with the carrots themselves, slice them into even sized chunks, making sure they don't roll off the bench like mine did. Here is 3 large all-rounder potatoes that can be prepared the same way as the onions, slicing them in half, then into quarters lengthways, rotate 90 degrees, and roughly chop into large even sized pieces. Of course, we're going to need garlic, so with 5 freshly peeled cloves, lay them flat on the chopping board, place the side of your knife onto the top of them, then with a blade facing down and away from yourself, push down to crush, which will activate the allicin compound. Last but not least, here is 10 grams or 0.3 ounces of flat leaf parsley, which is optional, and with this, scrunch it into a tight bunch to make it easier to work with. Grab your sharp knife and give it a good rough chop, which doesn't need to be perfect or super fine. Just make sure that there's no large leaves or stems, and this is going to be mainly used as a garnish anyway, so that's why it's optional. Place a large pot or large high-rimmed pan over a high heat, add in 1 tablespoon or 20 milliliters of olive oil, and once nice and hot, gently place in the spiced lamb, doing so with the fat cap facing down, and sear this for 3 minutes or until nicely golden brown. Once golden, gently flip it over, doing the same 3-minute process until it's golden brown on the other side. Then this can be removed from the pot or pan and placed onto a plate or in a bowl to rest for the time being, turning the heat down to medium-high in the process. Now to the pot or pan, add in the onions, carrots and potatoes and saute whilst mixing regularly for 3 minutes, which will ever so slightly start to soften the vegetables and allow them enough time to start picking up the flavour that the spiced lamb left behind. Next, add in the crushed garlic cloves along with 1 teaspoon or 5 grams of sea salt flakes and of course cracked black pepper, with myself giving it 20 cracks worth, but seasoning is always to your taste. This can then be given a quick mix and saute for 45 seconds to get the garlic releasing its flavour, then add in 1 litre or 4 cups of beef stock, which is going to be our sauce base, and I'll leave my recipe for that in the description below. Along with that, the spiced lamb can also be placed back in, and we want to position it so that it's sitting on the bottom of the pot with the vegetables beside it, and it doesn't matter if it's not fully submerged, as this will create a nice crust. Also, don't forget to add in any resting juices for that additional flavour, then increase the heat to high and bring this all to a boil. Once boiling, place on a lid or foil if you don't have one, remove it from the stovetop and place it into a preheated oven set at 160 degrees Celsius or 320 degrees Fahrenheit and braise for 2 hours and 50 minutes, giving it a mix halfway through. Now in the meantime, to make a fresh little sauce, add 1 cup or 240 grams of plain Greek yogurt to a mixing bowl, along with 1 teaspoon or 2.5 grams of ground cumin for a delicious earthy infusion, a tiny pinch of cayenne pepper to create a nice little tang of heat, and of course sea salt flakes to taste, and cracked black pepper. Using a spatula or a whisk, give this a quick mix to combine, allowing those flavors to become friends, and this right here is a cumin yogurt which works wonders with the lamb, and this can be put in the fridge until we're ready to serve. Going back to the lamb that's been braising for 2 hours and 50 minutes, let's now very carefully remove it from the oven and place it back onto the stovetop, then carefully remove the roasting hot lid, also watching out for any escaping steam. If you're using it, add in 3/4 of the roughly chopped flat leaf parsley to add freshness, then give this a gentle mix to combine, ensuring we don't break up the vegetables and lamb, then remove this from the stovetop. As for serving this one up, presentation is going out of the window, but place down a nice amount of that delicious lamb-soaked vegetables, then over the top, gently place down that soft and delicate lamb, with this recipe serving 4 to 6 people depending on portion size. Use a ladle to pour over that amazing sauce, with the amount being completely up to you, but it is good to get this nicely soaked. Then don't forget about that cumin yogurt that can be placed over the top or served on the side, and garnish with the remaining flat leaf parsley, which is of course optional. Once that's all done, we're then left with this incredibly delicious Middle Eastern Ras El Hanout braised lamb that literally melts in your mouth, leaving us with the best bit, which is to make all of this worthwhile, and that is we can then dig in.